Okay, so welcome again. We're going to start. So basically, the purpose of this was to kind of make sure that we provide some sort of uniform type of judging so that you guys are aware of what to do for those newcomers. You know, this might be a first time, just so you know the standards of how we do things. And then for those who are, veteran judges who've done this for many years, at least you know where we stand. And then we want the information to be, the same everywhere. So whatever experience the student has, it's kind of the same. We're doing this for the first time, and we haven't done these orientations much. But this way, at least you're aware of what to expect, what the day is going to look like. It'll kind of reduce the number of questions we may have down the road. Of course, if you do have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask. Feel free to type in a question, or there's a button that should say raise hand if you have a question, and someone will be able to monitor those questions and then be able to inform me. Okay? All right, so with that, let's begin. All right, so we're going to be talking about a few things today, the mission and vision of the Science Olympiad, the purpose of the Science Olympiad, an overview of the day, and just basically overall judging standards for our students. So our mission is to, to increase an interest in sciences. Basically, we want to make sure that these kids love science, are interested in sciences. It kind of helps build that motivation so that they get to, further develop into a certain science or engineering career, to approach using the scientific method. And our vision is to be able to do this for, many students to come throughout, whether it's in Armenia, whether it's locally, and basically to make these students become the future contributors of our global society. So the purpose of the Science Olympiad is to encourage and garner interest in sciences, math, and engineering. Pretty straightforward. We want them to know how to solve problems using the scientific method. It's a very important way of thinking. It's a great way of approaching questions and learning how to answer them and investigate them, being able to dig deeper into the question and basically don't take it at face value, but find proof and evidence to support the idea. Learning about new subjects, topics, and area of interest. This is very important for a lot of kids. Not many of them have experience or background. Of course, just to have fun with other students and peers. Basically, we want them to enjoy this event. It's not just for, learning, but also to have fun. There's a lot of kids there. It's a lot of hype, a lot of energy. We want to be able to foster that kind of environment. Further purposes is to provide motivation, encourage, recognize, and then obviously foster cooperation and community involvement. Pretty straightforward. Again, just make sure that we're here together. We're here as a group. There's a bunch of people from all over the valley in Los Angeles. We're actually for the first time going to have people from outside the states participating. So we want to create a nice little fun community in a sense. So this is just a quick location and parking information so that you know where to park, so that you guys aren't lost the day of. I'm assuming you all have this map. Just to be super clear as to where you need to go and where you need to park, it says very clearly the parking lot is, if you could see with the laser pointer, the parking lot is right over here in this part of the map. Make sure you guys park here, and then you guys will be coming all the way down to the student center, which is located way down over here. Okay, and then eventually there's a section where we'll have awards and closing ceremony down in the auditorium, which is also located here. So just make sure you guys are parking here in lot B, and the student center is room 202. This is where the judges will be basically deliberating and this is where you guys will meet to register, and then next door will be the actual floor where all the projects will be located. Okay, just make sure you guys get your complimentary parking tickets and permits so that you can park for free. All right, if there are no other questions, just a quick overview of the day. So registration refreshments start at 9 a.m. Then we'll have nice little group pictures going on at 9:15, so make sure you guys are dressed appropriately and dressed to impress. You guys are judges. You guys look professional. Please make sure you guys are dressed professionally. These students will look up to you. They want you guys to be their mentors and you know, teachers, so please make sure you're dressed according to the occasion. Then we'll have this quick little few minutes for you guys to kind of review the projects. Use this time to kind of go over each and every student's project. This is before the students enter the room. You guys can go look at the ones that you feel would require the most attention. Then you can also see the ones that might not be as impressive. That way you guys kind of have an idea of how to quickly divide up the room. You'll get to know where the projects are located. You won't need to kind of, scurry around looking for something when, you know where everything is. And then finally, by 9:45, you guys will return to the judges' room. Please regroup at this time so that you guys can get ready to do the actual formal judging. So the actual judging will take place at about 10 a.m. This is where you guys will have all the students there. Make sure, again, you guys have broken down into your groups so that you know how to divide up the work. The first round of deliberation will be between 11:30 to 11:45. So for an hour and a half, you guys are going about judging your students, and then you guys can come back and reconvene. If you need to speak about the work you've seen so far, this is sort of like your halfway mark, and then you go do your second round of deliberation from 11:45 to 1 p.m. And then after 1, you guys will have your lunch. Make sure you guys finish your deliberation by 2:30. That's the ultimate deadline. We try to give you as much time as possible to discuss. You guys are going to bicker, you guys are going to fight and argue, but that's fine. We know how it works. Just make sure that you guys are done by 2:30 p.m. In the meantime, there's some exhibit viewing going on for students. If you guys finish your deliberation soon, you guys are more than welcome to go ahead and view some of the exhibits. There's some science presentations that will go on from 3 to 4, and finally award ceremony from 4 to 5. You guys are technically done by 2:30. You're more than welcome to leave if you need to. But feel free to stay longer if you'd like. Maybe you like to see the awards. So during the project review, this is the part where you guys, again, review the projects ahead of time before the students come in. You get to kind of see where the projects are located, where your group is located, where your students will be located. You get to pretty much assess the scope and quality of these projects. Again, make sure to group up per category. Each and every one of your groups will have a group text messaging system so that you guys are aware of updates and quick communication as needed regarding the event. Okay? Judging chairs. So these are the heads of each and every group. So per category, you'll have a specific chair who will oversee the entire judging. These are the people who are the most veteran, the most experienced. Please no egos. These folks are here to support and help us. Everybody here is a volunteer. These people have done this for many, many years. Don't let them step on any toes, and don't step on any of their toes. Just be respectful of each other. You guys are all equals. You guys are all judges. You guys are here to help the kids out. There should be no conflict of interest whatsoever. So if you do have a student who's in your group, who you happen to know and who happens to be a mentee of yours or a student of yours, just please ask to be reassigned. You'll all receive a conflict of interest disclosure forms to sign to make sure that none of you have any conflicts of interest. This is a very serious issue for us. We don't want any unfair advantages of any kind. Okay, so just some things to think about while judging. Make sure you question skillfully and thoroughly. Leave students feeling positive about their accomplishments. I can't stress that enough. Some people, I know that some of these kids worked hard, although it's not awesome or as perfect as you might have imagined. Just make sure that they feel a little bit positive leaving your interview. Help them learn something if you can from the experience. Don't give them too much information because that wouldn't be fair for the next judge who comes around to judge, but just give them some sort of positive, motivational pep talk, if that helps, just so that they know what they need to do to work on perhaps next time. Make sure you determine the winners. Make sure every student has been interviewed at least 3 times. That's very important. Make sure you do one judge at a time, if possible. So one judge, it's a one-on-one interview. Unless you're a brand new judge, you'll probably have someone to shadow. But other than that, just please make sure you're on a one-on-one basis. Don't be afraid to divide and conquer. You know, there's a lot of projects. We tend to have a lot of projects coming in, especially for the junior categories. It's a lot for a handful of judges to review, and especially if you're going to, each one's going to be reviewed 3 times. Make sure you divide up the work. Again, do this beforehand, please. Interview should be at least 5 to 10 minutes long. Make sure you keep track of time. Take a timer. Use your phones if you must. That way you don't go overboard. Don't spend too much time on the projects that don't require as much time, and you can tell based on the quality. But those that require a lot of deliberation, they seem pretty impressive and require a lot of attention. Just make sure that you guys spend enough time allocated toward that. Before I move on, I noticed, were there any questions? So I see a question here. They're asking minutes per project. Yes, I've answered that. Per project, about 5 to 10 minutes, if you can. We don't know entirely the exact number of projects yet, so we can't tell you what exactly it'll be divvied up into, but we'll be able to do that tonight. Okay, hope that answered your question. All right. If there are any other questions, please type it into message box. I'll do my best to pause and answer them if I can. And again, in the end, there'll be a Q&A session as well. Okay, so expectations from students. Just make sure that you know that some of these students will be very nervous and anxious. You guys are quite intimidating people. You guys are adults wearing, you know, fancy suits, and you guys are there to judge them on their project. Some of them might be nervous and scared, so give them the benefit of the doubt. They should have pride in their projects and accomplishments. If a student is just presenting something just for the sake of presenting, well, then you know the quality of that project and you know what kind of grade to give them. Grade that accordingly. You want the students should know enough about their project as much as their grade level permits them to. Make sure they're clear and concise in the way they explain their projects. We're also judging them on their ability to answer your questions, and make sure, again, like I said, it's appropriate to their grade level. You'll have quite a wide variety of project quality and sophistication levels. Some kids will have more resources than others. Some are more advanced than others. This is, again, why we make you guys preview the projects beforehand, so you kind of know how to grade them based on what level. Okay? So don't be afraid to be an educator. Treat them with love and respect, and hopefully they'll do the same back to you. Evaluate, but also praise their efforts and accomplishments. Just try to find something positive to say, even if the project is mediocre. I don't want their hearts to be broken. They're feeble as is. They're here to have fun. They're here to enjoy themselves. We want good projects and good quality projects, but if it's not up to par or up to your expertise level, again, treat them with kid gloves, and make sure, again, that they're here to have fun and enjoy this. We want them to come back next year, and we want them to perhaps learn something from the experience and come back more prepared. So ask questions that will cause them to think, learn, and obviously explore further. Give them a chance to speak. You should speak much less than they do. If you find yourself lecturing them, that's a little too much. That's where you should perhaps give them a chance to speak and give them more opportunity to present their projects to you. Help them think and guide them. Ask them guiding questions. Don't give them any of the answers. Try to dig a little bit more. And again, try not to provide them too much information. Okay? And make sure you have patience. Again, they're nervous, they're anxious, they don't know exactly what you need to know. They don't know entirely what you do know. And just, again, make sure it's a very, very friendly environment. This is, again, a community-based event. We're all volunteers. We're all here to have fun. We're all here to enjoy the event. I have here a list of suggested questions. You'll all be received these questions yourself. I think Sona has provided you with this list. If not, she will. You can go off of these questions if you like. These aren't the end-all, be-all to all questions. These are just some suggested questions to kind of, break the ice. So some questions would be here, just how did you come up with the idea for the project? What did you learn? How long did it take you? You're again trying to help instill some, to kind of move the conversation along. So some of these kids, like I mentioned, might be nervous, might be stiff, might be anxious. This kind of helps move along the conversation. Okay, again, all these questions here are just suggestions. You'll all be given these questions, and these are just suggestions. There's tons more questions you can ask besides these. So I just wanted to point out quite a few, just highlight a few of these here. What is the next step, you know, basically in your experiment or your study? Are there anything that we haven't covered that you feel are important? You know, what resources did you use, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? Some more suggestions and tips when judging. Consider how well the resources were used and what they had at their disposal. Again, not every kid has the same resources. And know that not all projects will be hypothesis driven and may not have any controls, so just be aware of that. Hypothesis, however, should be based on theory and data, not guessing, assuming again that their experiment requires to have a hypothesis. All things being equal, originality is superior. So if you have everyone, you know, checks every box and they're all the same and you're having a hard time figuring out who is best, just the more original, the better. Error analysis is important, and of course, it's appropriate to grade level. The higher the grade, just make sure that they're aware of, you know, the confidence intervals that they're doing the projects in, or you know, the level of error that they may have had, or the errors they may have come across. As long as they're aware, that's still a plus. Other thoughts when judging? Use the expertise of on your team if you think something isn't clear. You have expert judges in the science fair. Don't be afraid to speak to them. But if you do speak to them, if you have questions, just make sure you go either to the room, the judges' room, to talk or discuss, or move to the side, move outside, so that the students don't hear, and hopefully parents don't hear what you're discussing. We say this, it's not a Blackboard beauty contest, but you know, of course, originality is key, and you know, we want them to have fun, so it's okay if they make things look pretty. Just know that it's not about how pretty it is, it's about, you know, the content of the actual presentation. When you come across a very complicated project, just understand that sometimes, you know, I know it looks very, it might look very robust, but some of these kids have had mentors and mentees. We've actually helped some of these students ourselves, so we know that, you know, we've given them resources and tools to create some pretty awesome stuff. So just don't assume that they haven't done it themselves entirely. If you're unsure, feel free to re-interview them. Project should show evidence of literature review. Make sure they have their bibliography. So when you come across team projects, team-based projects, just consider some things. You know, why was this a team project? Did everybody, you know, understand the outcomes? Did everybody participate equally? Did we all contribute to this? You know, and let them each speak. You know, give them a chance to speak. If you notice someone who's not speaking as much as the other, well, then perhaps one person did most of the work and not the other, and that, therefore, you know, you have to judge them quite equally. So just keep that in mind. So this is something I just wanted to go over so you guys are aware of the scoring form. We're going to use some digital scoring. We will have a link to basically do pretty much score the points for the students. It will be a total of 20 points. It will be very similar to the LA County Science Fair. A lot of our students come through our organization to then move on to the LA County Science Fair. So we wanted to keep it sort of uniform and kind of score on the same basis. There will be a link to the score sheets, like I mentioned. The score submissions will be final. However, you are more than welcome to use the paper-based ones, and when you can fill it in on the paper, and if you want to, you know, once you're confident with your scores and you've gone through deliberation, you've discussed it amongst your group, feel free to then go in to the link and score them, and so that it kind of goes in digitally. We'll be able to collect all the info and tabulate the scores near the end. Therefore, you know, there's no bias. There's, you know, you have a, you know, the computer will do all the math for you, and you'll know who's on top. Of course, after that, you're more than welcome to choose first, second, third place afterwards. The judging criteria will be based on originality, comprehension, organization, and completeness, effort, and motivation. Of course, this is the actual topics we're deliberating them on or judging them on and scoring them on. It'll be out of obviously 4 points for each category, and there's 5 categories total. However, these are the other things we're trying to keep in mind as we go through the projects. Okay? So the scoring form will look like this when you click on the link. Basically, you'll be given a unique password to sign in, and then once you type it in, you just click next. You get to pick the project. It'll be a drop-down menu. You'll have all the projects hopefully within your category. So hypothetically, if I'm in the Junior Life Sciences section, I will have only Junior Life Sciences projects to appear in my category list. If by chance, for some reason, we get a late entry and the category isn't there, I believe there should be perhaps an other category where you can type in your own project, or if at the very least we have a technician who will be there throughout the entire day to be able to type in or insert the new category that came in which case you should be able to just refresh and see it. Okay? And then once you click on the subject, basically it'll look similar to this. It'll be very simple. We try to simplify this. Again, we're using the LA County Fair's questionnaire and standards to score. So it'll be on a scale of 1 to 4, and we'll be scoring them on 5 different domains and 5 different categories. All right, and at the end, basically, there'll be a place for you to put in your name, as in the name of the judge who did the scoring. Just make sure you don't duplicate too many of the same project. All right, so just some details about the contents of the presentation that the students, for the students' experiments. We're looking for project reports. Just make sure there's a good report that has the abstract, introduction, materials, methods, results, data, discussion, conclusions, and of course references. So this is just something, I know some of us skim through it. Just take a quick look if you can. Just make sure they have this stuff. It's part of the actual scoring and judging criteria. When it comes to logs and notebooks, just feel free to take a gander. Again, look at it. Make sure it's complete and in order. Kind of figure out what was done and when it was done. Make sure that's kind of clear. It should be original recorded data. I hope it's not like copy and pasted or printed out. They should have something in their logbook as well. Again, take a quick look. You don't have to look through all the details and read through everything. It's just something that they should potentially have. Of course, it depends on the type of project that they're doing, and make sure it's relevant to their project. When it comes to data analysis, obviously they should have independent variables, dependent variables. If there's some sort of graph of some kind, make sure that they have enough sample data. It's been done through multiple trials. If there is a control, that's also important. So just make sure you're looking for all of that when you're judging these projects. Okay. So communication and presentation skills are obviously important too. Make sure that they're articulate enough to be able to speak clearly and concisely. Again, take it with a grain of salt. Some of these kids are nervous and anxious, but again, we are judging them based on the way they present themselves. Make sure when you're discussing things, it's confidential. We have a whole separate room for judges to go to and to discuss the projects, to discuss the scoring. You guys can, you have a whole separate room with snacks and goodies there, so you can spend time there. Don't discuss it amongst on the judging floor. We want to keep this information confidential, so no one hears it, and then they say they may misunderstand or they may comment on it. You guys are the experts. You guys are the professionals. You guys do the scoring. Your say is final. So whatever you guys do, just make sure it's done separately. Okay. There will be sign-in sheets for you guys, so keep an eye out. When you go to each and every project, there will be a sign-in sheet that looks like similar to this. Just make sure you put in the student's name will be there. The project title should be there. Just make sure that you put in your initials and signature. so that we know at least each student or each project was graded 3 times, and then you were the one who actually scored that said student. So try not to forget to sign. The award sheets will look something like this. This is the final sheet where you put in and rank the order of the awards that you're giving out to the students. So you'll have, just make sure the chair turns in the final decisions. And again, I can't stress this enough. We want to make sure we have a strict deadline of 2:30 p.m. If you go a little overboard, we can't do much. There'll be a lot of projects where we'll have heated debates. Just make sure you actually do give away awards. We need to have a first place, second place, third place, and after that will be honorable mentions. And you can discuss and decide how many first place students you need, or how many second place students you have. You can have more than one of each category, but do your best to separate them into separate awards, if that makes sense. So on the final sheet, you put in the award, first place, you type in the project ID, and then you put in the student name afterwards. Hopefully that makes some sense. And then at the end, you write all the judges' names, and so that we know which judges scored which projects. This is the final sheet before you turn everything in. Okay? If you have any questions, you have staff there who will be working trying to coordinate this whole thing. We have the entire Science Olympiad committee. The committee members will be there to help you with any questions that you may have, anything that goes out of order, any kind of misconduct that you may see, anything that doesn't make sense to you. Feel free to ask. Sona is always there. She's running around. I'm sure she'll be able to answer your questions. Okay? And don't be afraid to ask others, especially veteran judges, for help as well. So we're coming down the wire. Basically, if you want to be more involved, you're more than welcome to be part of the committee or be part of ASA in general. Then feel free to email us and contact us at soc@asa.org or contact@asa.org. We can always use more help to put these events together, or even similar events if you'd like to participate further. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the orientation. Does anybody have any questions, comments, suggestions, or concerns? Feel free to comment, type it in, or if you'd like, we can unmute you so that you can ask me directly. Sona is here as well if you'd like to ask her anything. No questions whatsoever?
Hello?
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you.
I got in late, so I didn't see the parking information. Could you just go over that real briefly?
So, so we knew a lot of people will be coming in and out. Basically, we recorded this entire session, so if you want, we can send this to you. And in terms of parking, you'll receive an actual parking sheet, or a map, if I'm not mistaken. Sona may have already sent it to you. If not, I'm pretty sure if you just contact her, she'll send it again. But basically, you'll be parking in parking lot B. You'll have parking permits so that you can park there. And then we're meeting in the Student Center, room 202 at 9 a.m. So just make sure you're on time. Does that help?
Yes. Who gives the permit? Do we pick them up there at the gate or whatever?
Yes, you should be able to pick him up there. There'll be someone who gives them out. I think there'll be someone at the parking lot B, probably a member from the Science Olympiad. They will hand out parking permits. Just make sure you see them waving you down.
One other question regarding the scoring. Since we're going to be scoring them, each of the projects, and you're going to be essentially recording the scoring, in your computers, then what is the purpose of that if the committee is still going to decide who gets first, second, and third place?
It was more of an unbiased approach and data-driven approach, so there's no emotions involved, and that way when you do score, separately, all the data goes and you could clearly see who gets first, second, third, and then based on that, you'll get to know who truly is first and how far they were from second or third. And there are times where, I mean, people make mistakes and judges, mid-score or, again, aren't sure how to judge a project based on other projects or similar projects. So I've seen, it just gives us the option to look at it one more time if you need to, and it kind of collects all the data. So, I say it's clear and cut once you score, but that's why we say just make sure you do it on paper, and then when you're ready to put it in digitally, you go ahead and put it in digitally.
What if the committee's findings and the scoring don't match?
Very good question. Well, then I think that's then up to you guys to figure it out. In that case, I'll let Shona put in a comment for that if she may. Let me give her a chance to speak.
I couldn't hear the question.
Oh, the question was, what if the points don't match with the judge's decision?
Oh, I guess if that's the case, then you would have to. Oh, you can't hear me? Okay.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Okay,
Okay, so
basically,
basically,
my
my
suggestion
suggestion
is
is as a group of judges, you can discuss among yourselves if for some reason the chair and some other people disagree with the decision or the scoring. You can discuss it. We will have a member in each category who's in charge of the Google form, so you can take a look at the scores that everyone has inputted and discuss among yourself, okay, now tell me why you scored this person with this, and then that's why you have a deliberation towards the end to go over the scores, to go over the project and make a decision who among all your colleagues at the moment is deciding on. And there is a question from Levon regarding the participants from Armenia and Russia. As I emailed, we had planned them to be interviewed over here in USA in the evening, or between 8 to 12 p.m. However, that might change, and we might have it early in the morning around 8 a.m. We will contact you separately outside of this group emails and then let you know what the final decision is going to be and what time Armenia will be available as well. Any other questions? Vladimir, we're going to unmute you so you can speak finally. Do not change the speaker so we can, okay, it looks like you're off the mute, so we could probably hear you now. Any other questions? It looks like I cannot hear Vladimir at the moment.
I have a question on the scoring. You can do the paper or the digital scoring, and is the digital scoring on a cell phone or app, or are we supposed to bring a laptop or iPad or something like that?
No, it'll just be on the phone. They're simple 5 questions, a score of 1 through 5. We'll give you the rubric so you can see what each score means, and then you can go off of that to basically decide on the number. But it'll be everything will be on your phone.
Okay.
Or like we'll send you the link so you can sign in over your phone.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
All right, there is a hand by
Hello?
Gevorg. Yes, we can hear you, Gevorg.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Hello?
Sorry, this is my first time. And also,
Yeah.
I was a little late by seeing those view of the parking lot and instruction from the beginning. I was still trying to catch up. And
Okay.
you mentioned that you're going to send, you'll be able to send it to me by emailing or something. I don't mind to just get that. Otherwise, taking your time for you to explain again, it's not worth it. Are you able to email me the
Yes.
first couple of instructions?
Yes, we have
Okay.
recorded this this orientation, so we can send it to those who unfortunately were having a conflict, and you will also get receive a copy of it.
I have one more question regarding the dress code. I missed it because I heard continuation that you don't want to look something to scare those young kids.
Well, I mean, the dress code, professional dress code is always nice to have. There is no particular dress code, like you have to wear a tie or anything, but just dress nicely. It's a business casual dress code. But what we were saying, not to look scary to the kids, is meaning like don't treat them harshly, do not
For example,
do not make them feel like you're attacking them.
Yeah, if it's a professional, you have a tie, still professional. And if it's a business, also will be tie. Some businesses, they do it with a t-shirt. So,
Right.
would
Well,
you better have
it's a business casual. We don't have a dress code per se. Like
I see.
it's just a.
Okay.
You can have a T-shirt as well.
If it's a tie, is okay too? Suit
What's
and
that?
tie?
That's okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Vladimir, if you don't mind, can you type your question and we'll try to answer it? Hello?
Somehow, your voice is so low. Is there any adjustment on my side? Because I did it maximum 100%, but still low.
Can you hear me better now?
Could you increase a little more?
Let me see. Can everyone hear me very well, or you're having a trouble hearing me as well?
Looks like no, it's a little low. I would prefer a little higher, but it looks like it's not.
Actually, I can hear you loud and clear.
This one was clear. The gentleman he just talked, it was better. It was
Okay.
a little higher.
Maybe I'll raise my volume.
Okay.
I'm not sure what's happening.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
Okay, Vladimir, can you type your questions because we cannot hear you? Okay, we're waiting for Vladimir to ask his questions so we can try to answer everyone's concerns. So the question is, if everyone can see, it says, I don't see how it's possible for input scores to mismatch the committee's decision. Aren't decisions based on the scores? The only deliberation is for close scores and tiebreakers, right? Yes, that's correct. And that's, there was a case last year where a student didn't ask too many questions to the judge didn't ask the student too many questions, so the impression of her was this student doesn't know enough, and she scored low. But then when there was a discussion with the more seasoned judge, then after several discussions, they realized that yes, this student actually knows his stuff, and he probably deserves a little bit higher score than what I have scored him, and that placed him at an advantage for winning in the Olympiad. So the deliberation is yes for close scores and tiebreakers, and also maybe when you're discussing certain questions or like someone had a different impression on the student, then you can realize, oh, you know what, I scored him higher because I thought this was the case. And if you want to change your scores, you can change. If not, then you leave it as is. I hope that answers your questions, Vladimir. What's that? Yes, the digital scores should be final. Who is responsible for operations on the judging floor? Who is the manager of the process? In previous years, it was a split role among multiple people, and they didn't work well. Well, we're going to have a chair for each category, and I will be basically the manager of the whole judges at this time, since Asadur is not available on that day. And we will have someone assigned to do the Google form. Like you guys take a look at the scores of everyone's input, and if there is anything that needs to be managed on the Google form, then that person will be able to assist you. Most likely they'll be from our committee member, and also will be trained to do this on the floor. And in previous years, it was a split role among multiple people, and that didn't work. That's why we were asking for feedback, so we can address it better and make this a lot smoother this year. Well, the question is, should judges keep a timer at each project? Running long is very easy to do by mistake. That is very true. That's why we say please keep a track of your time. Go between 5 to 10 minutes. If you find that the student project is somewhat a low quality, you can do a quick interview and move to the next project. Just you're the manager of your own time. Like out there at workforce, we're all managing our own time. So again, over here as a judge, you also have to manage your time. So if it works for you, then yes, keep a timer for yourself, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you want. Or if you're better at like realizing, okay, I need to move to the next project without the timer, that's by all means, you're welcome to do that. But 5 minutes to 10 minutes maximum, so you can cover everyone on the floor. And please also be aware that the reason for the first 15-minute break is for the judges to return and just kind of go over the projects and say, okay, I highly recommend you guys go and see this project. And you all go and try to make that time to see that project to make sure that if that is a possible winner, then they do get the award and they do get all the attention to make sure that they are well evaluated. In previous years, this is a comment from Vladimir that what he noticed, and that the judges took 1 to 3 minutes to give a story from their career. You know, that's really nice, but we are there to be to manage our time better and to you know what? I'm gonna give that to Asadur.
Thank you, Sona. So what I was going to say was, like I said, no egos, please. They're not here to listen to you. You're there to listen to the students. So manage your time. Get a stopwatch if you must, 5 to 10 minutes. If you go overboard, and we see you go overboard, we're going to have to pull you out and say, look, you're wasting people's time. They're not here. You know, we need to move on, obviously, because there's a lot of projects to do. And if a judge, again, just tends to go on a bunny trail and just decides to speak about their career, again, you're just there to judge the student, have the students do more of the speaking than the judge, and then from there we can, you know, that way, you know, it's more, I mean, the students aren't there to listen to you as much as you should be there to listen to them. So another question I have here, how are we ensuring that each project gets judged 3 times in time for the deadline? Well, again, if you saw, there's a 10th card, a sign-in sheet. Each person, each judge will, and again, before this whole thing starts, you guys do regroup. You guys get to see the projects in each of every projects. You get a preview of the projects. You get to see what amount of projects you have to work with. You get to divide the time by the number of judges you have. That way you know how many judges need to judge each project. And then with that, just make sure as you go by, you sign in on the sign-in sheets. If you see a judge before you go in and the sign-in sheet is blank, then you are, just please remind the other judge that, hey, you know, you forgot to sign in. So help each other out if you guys can. We'll try to have people go around and check on the sign-in sheets, but do your best at to make sure each project gets judged 3 times. Hope that helps. Sona wants to add something? Okay, never mind. We have another question here. The question is, any guidelines for how to adapt the rubric for engineering projects that aren't trying to answer specific questions? The rubric is geared more towards science rather than engineering. Great question. For engineering projects, well, this year we will have, well, I think it'll be I think the students' categories will be broken down to physical, life sciences, and I believe the chemical sciences. If I'm not mistaken, we'll have robotics as well, right? Robotics will have its own separate rubric, if I'm not mistaken, or a separate criteria.
It's robotics and engineering.
Yeah, and it'll have a whole separate category for robotics and engineering. Those should have their own separate criteria, but it'll be relatively similar, from what I imagine.
So just to ensure, this is not the same score sheet that we had last year. This is something that we have adopted exactly what LA County has been using, and it's it's the general score sheet that they use for all categories. So we're not going to have specific questions for science only. And I just wanted to revisit the question regarding how we're ensuring that each project gets judged 3 times. I'm going to collect everyone's phone number most likely and create a group text message. That way, in each category, if there is something that comes up, then I can connect with you quickly and say, so-and-so has not been seen by a 3rd judge. Can someone please hop on and go and judge that person? any comments you get back or any issues that come up, then it'll be an easier way to communicate. Either it'll be through the chair or it'll be through the group message to everyone in that category.
Right, and if I may add, you guys are using your phones to score, so hopefully you have your phones handy with you, so you guys can get those mass text messages.
Vladimir, we'll talk about that later.
Any other questions or concerns? Again, this is all recorded so that you guys can review it later, just in case something was missed or you came in late or something wasn't clear. And again, feel free to reach out to us. You know, the whole point of this was to get, deal with all the questions and concerns, hopefully as much as we possibly could before the actual Science Olympiad. All right?
And I just wanted to add something real quick before we close it. Svetlana Artunova is on the phone call, and she had a great point that I'm not sure if you mentioned it, but we will have a list of the students who will be participating in LA County Science Fair. And if you by chance finish with your projects and you discuss and you decide that who are the winners and you still have time, feel free to go back now and then give some feedback to the students who will be participating at the science fair, how they can improve within the next 2 weeks for their project, basically, or if they need to do an interview update or get better at certain things. So there is another question. Will we be able to have runoff interviews for close score or ties?
Well, that
depends
on
Yeah, so we will, you guys are, yes, allowed to have, you're allowed to get invite or re-invite or re-interview the student if something isn't unclear. I think I mentioned that in one of the slides. If the project just seems, if you want to hear the student present one more time to you guys are welcome to bring in the student. Just remember, we're trying to end it all by 2:30 p.m. So yes, the answer is basically yes. You're allowed to revisit the student, call them back in for one last interview just to make sure you guys have, answered all the questions to make sure you score them properly. All right, so with that, again, if you do have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. Well, thank you guys all for joining us this late in the evening on a Tuesday. Hope this was helpful and useful. Again, we want to make sure that they all have fun and enjoy this. I hope you guys all have fun and enjoy doing this. Thank you guys all for volunteering. You guys are literally lifesavers, and these kids really look up to you guys. Feel free to mentor them outside of this. If you want to participate in further projects, again, we do have mentoring opportunities after the Science Olympiad. You guys can potentially work with these students to make sure they go to state, if not, county, state, if not the international science fairs. We could use all the help we can get. All right, so with that, thank you. We're going to sign off. You should all receive the recording shortly, hopefully. All right?
All right. I just want to say last comment, basically. Thank you, everyone, for your time. We are excited to see you on Sunday, March 17. And thank you, Asadur, for this wonderful presentation. I hope it cleared a lot of the questions that everyone had. And we'll see you on Sunday.
All right.